Hi, Don and Vyas from the Generative Edge. We're here at the AWS Summit in Katowice and it is buzzing. I'm joined today by my co-host Vyas.
Hello there.
And we have Grzegorz Karlik.
Hello.
Yes, who's representing Wrocław WaterWorks today, and we've just had you on stage. It was an absolute incredible presentation. Thank you so much for being here today and just sharing the incredible work that you're doing within your city. How did you feel after the presentation?
Thank you for this opinion. My presentation, that was
great.
That was live. Our real life, we have such problems every day, so we should deal with them. And we use AI because without it, it should be more challenging than with AI. So it's always a problem, but AI makes it a little more possible to deal with.
Well, I must admit, in watching your presentation, I had not been able to stretch my mind to the place where the underlying infrastructure that runs underneath most of us day to day is sometimes over 100 years old. Maybe you want to talk about what does your typical day-to-day look like? What do you do, actually?
Yeah, just to add on, right? So, of course, you and I had the privilege of watching the presentation.
Yeah.
A lot of our viewers wouldn't. So
Sure.
It would be nice to actually explain what you do and perhaps your day-to-day challenges. I think that would help us a lot.
So mainly we are responsible for delivering water to our customers and collecting sewage from their houses, for example, factories in all the city. And of course, what I said during my presentation, it's true. The old infrastructure is a problem in our sector, in our city also. And our daily operations focus on how to plan properly repairs and how to deal with everyday repairs, because sometimes you can wait for a renovation 2 years, for example, because there is a plan, there is accepted, there is coordinated with any units in the city, but in the same time, every day we have small, big, or just enormous repairs we should deal with, and that's our daily operation to sustain water delivery and collection of sewage of our customers.
That's great. And tell us a little bit about how you used AI in a preventative manner to help you on your day-to-day.
The first example was I described during my presentation. So this predictive analytics can show us what is the section of the network that is risky, that have weak spots, and we should deal with this network, because in the future, looking at probability of the failures, it will create a problem. So we have a plan using predictive analytics and predictive model how to renovate, which part of the networks to renovate. And that's the first example how we use AI. Hard to say that we have structure of projects regarding AI, because right now we don't have much experience with AI, but we try to be on board of this train called AI, because we feel that that's the future of our sector, especially because we have limited funds and we need these smart technologies to deal with our everyday problems. So we use AI right now for our core business, we can say, but also for our back office processes. For example, one of our AI agents, right now we are about to launch such agent in our company, create technical documentation in our company.
Oh, that's a super cool use case, yeah.
I know, especially when you're talking about a network which is 5,000 kilometers within the city. I mean, it's incredible. I like the start with which they had the presentation today, talking about everything, right from brushing your teeth to taking a shower or even flushing a toilet.
Just opening a tap in general. Impacts your
Hard
business.
to imagine a modern city without the water, for sure.
And yet we take it for granted.
Yeah, we do.
And so many things happen underneath, right? So what is the biggest challenge as any city provider, right?
I remember such conversation with one of our interns. After a couple of months, he said, I didn't realize that there is so complex to sustain this water delivery. I just thought that there is a pump at the beginning, there is a tap at the end, and that's all. Water is flowing. Well, it's more complex, of course, than that. So there are many processes and technologies involved to sustain this water delivery from the intake of the water, through the water treatment, through the distribution network, to the tap of our customer. And a lot of people with these technologies manage all the problems to feel like this, that there is just like take it for granted. You just go to the tap and there is water. That's how it should be.
Oh,
Absolutely. I have a 6-year-old son and he flushes the toilet before he goes to the toilet and afterwards. And now I'm certainly going to go home and teach him not to be doing that.
No, that's fantastic. But one of the things which I learned as we were speaking earlier and even during the presentation is the AI model, right? So which you use. You talked about 300 different parameters which you actually capture probably every quarter and then figure out where you should invest your time in terms of making sure that there is uninterpreted services, right? So can you talk a little bit more, because it's fascinating to understand the real business challenge there.
And what are some of those 300 attributes? I mean,
I tried, of course, in general to explain this during my presentation, because it's a complex issue to how the water network or sewage network works. So you have soil types, water levels, temperature, exposure to weather, different materials, different age, how it is built over many decades. So there is more and more, and the roads, tram tracks, it's always a problem for the network, because you know this, if you have in a household area road, there is almost no traffic at all. So the pipe is living in a good environment, you can say. But having such a pipe in a city center, when you have huge load of traffic, there is a problem for a pipe, because mechanical exposure to traffic is also a problem and a factor that can lead to a pipe burst. And like I said during my presentation, it's not possible for even the best human expert to analyze all the data and pinpoint that's the problem, because sometimes it's not very intuitive. So experts can, using this knowledge, the best of his knowledge, can pinpoint the wrong pipe for renovation, and that is we can't afford to do because of the limited funds.
It's truly impressive, and I honestly take my hats off to you and your team for what you do. In talking to you offline, specifically yesterday, I was quite interested to understand your journey. So we've been talking about this preventative maintenance case, but how did you get started on this AI journey? And naively, I was quite surprised because I imagine your work day to day it's very physical in some aspects. So when I heard that you were doing such advanced innovations in AI, I was generally interested as how you got started, what's the ethos and the culture in the company, where's that coming from? Can you maybe just talk us through why did you start on the AI journey, and how did it kind of get to the point where you implemented this preventative maintenance case?
Of course, our road didn't start with AI.
Sure.
That's just maybe the last episode we are right now, because our road started many years ago with the digital transformation of our company. More than 10 years, so I tried to find where is the proper year as a starting point. But this digital transformation was connected with the transformation of the whole of our company. The processes, the indicators, everything was changed during this process. And right now in our company we don't, every process is supported by some kind of system. So there is no paper, for example, in our company, because we feel that if the process is going well, it should be supported and optimized in a system, because paper makes it really slow and not efficient. That's why over the years, right now, we decided that AI as a possibility to make it even better, it's our chance to do it. That's how we decided to include AI in our strategy.
Was that a decision sort of top down in your organization? Because that sounds like a really strategical way to think about the future.
It was. Of course, without proper management, it wouldn't be possible. So that was the strategic decision to include digital transformation first, AI second into our strategy.
Wow.
Yeah, my eyes lit up when say there's a digital transformation leading into AI. Like, how many of us learn this so often that without having data, doing that AI is so challenging? Yeah. And kudos to you and your vision for your company that you've actually started off with digital transformation long before anyone envisaged it, and then now here you are making a huge difference with predictive analysis, which I saw one of the statistics that you are at 5% water loss in 2024, much below anyone else perhaps in the EU.
The lowest rating in the EU is what I saw.
Significant.
Yes, and that's right, but you could see in my presentation that the beginning was completely different.
Sure.
So we many years ago realized that comparing our company with other companies in Europe through EBC benchmarking, we realized that we are not good at it. So the water loss levels was above the average water loss level in Europe. So that's why we decided it's not going well. So we should probably look for some best practices that are in the world, and we decided to use IWA methodology to deal with water losses. The road wasn't easy and was supported by software specially dedicated, and we were creators with IT company that was responsible for this. We created it together to deal with water losses. That's the part of our road. But of course, the most important part, it's not new. People are most important part of every management and every result.
So you've been on this AI journey for a while, started with digital transformation, but that's not where you're stopping. You're continuing to innovate, which I love. Yeah. And I would actually call you pioneers, to be quite honest. You've also mentioned earlier a use case that's involving generative AI around technical documentation. Do you want to tell us what your thinking is around using LLMs and generative AI for some use cases?
We realized that creating technical documentation is quite time demanding. So our employees were spending much time to create very complex technical documentation, and it's just the manipulation of text, to be honest. And that's why we realized that maybe such LLMs like we have today can help us to do it. And that's why we decided to launch this relatively small project, but we treat it as the beginning of our road. So the first agent in our company to help us create technical documentation for any reasons, for investments, for procurement, when we deal with repairs, when we deal with products to buy. This technical documentation is always the base for any moves activities in our company. That's why it's small, but it's important.
I know we talk about productivity gains, especially using generative AI. So when I think about your journey, right, from digital transformation, predictive AI maintenance, and then eventually now bringing in productivity, which is like very forward thinking. What was the most challenging thing you encountered in each of this journey, right? So which will be fascinating for someone like you wanting to embark on this journey, would love to learn from you.
I think if we consider AI agents in any company, for sure in the main opportunity and challenge are people. Because right now I have such impression that some people know about AI because they've read something about it. Some people don't know anything, and some people think that this is completely just a toy. So if someone, for example, used ChatGPT 1 year ago, he thinks that he knows AI and that's his knowledge for another 10 years. So awareness, how efficiently you can use AI agents and how rapidly the market of models is changing, it's something that should be established in our company because people don't feel that it can support our daily activities.
Because you've got the technical documentation use case that you're working on, I think you mentioned another use case around customer service that you're engaging in. But you're right, people, and this has been a common theme in our discussions, that people and that education, that fluency in the organization is vitally important for that adoption. Can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like in practice? I mean, who are you educating? Who are you trying to create awareness around? Is it junior folks? Is it your leadership teams? What does that journey look like for you?
First, we try to prepare good product, because this AI agent should be such a good support for the employees without any possibility of mistake, to convince them that this is the real help. And another stage is to pinpoint such leader of change in every department to use such agent and to be really convinced that it's helpful, and to tell his friends, you should use it too, because it's doing the work properly.
Is this happening? I mean, are people starting
We are about to start.
Okay,
So right now, maybe next month we will start this agent in our company.
Sure. And what about from a top-down perspective? Is there buy-in? I mean, obviously there was buy-in if you're on this AI journey, but what does that top layer of leadership look like? Are you spending time educating there, or are these change agents, for lack of a better word, are they sort of from the ground up, you're trying to create this awareness internally?
We're doing it from the both sides.
Both sides.
So we pick these leaders from the employees, but of course the engagement of management is really important. Without it,
Sure.
no activity, no project is possible in the organization. So we are trying to convince everyone, also management, that this is the future, and have the great potential is not a toy.
Yeah.
Even if you had such experience 1 year ago, 2 years ago, it's completely different right now. And of course, what I said at the beginning, there is no possibility of mistake if you create technical documentation. If it's a base for your investment, it's a base for your procurement. If there is one mistake or couple of them, nobody will use it, and convince people, okay, but in 1 year it will be better. You have only one chance to make this first impression, so that's why it's important.
And getting it right first time to convince everyone is always a challenge, which we have heard this from across. Just forward thinking a little more. How do you see this moving forward in your organization? What's your vision? Like probably next 2 years, 5 years, where do you see this going?
I think that this agent is just the beginning, so probably in the future there will be more of them. I see the great engineering potential in the agents, so I wait for such solution that, for example, will be support for engineers to evaluate quality of design, for example, supervise work in the field, looking at the system, analyze the data in the system, and derive from it such results and conclusions that are impossible for human expert that right now is in front of the computer. I think it's possible in the future.
I love those ideas, right? So it might be small, incremental add-ons, but I think it's going to massively change the entire industry, the way you're thinking. The other thought which comes to my mind is IoT, and I think you were briefly touching on that when we were speaking a few minutes earlier, right? So I would love to understand a little more so that we can understand where your thought process is going around that.
We are about to end our first and the biggest project connected with smart water meters. We use LoRa technology in this project, and at the beginning of next year, the whole city will be covered in a LoRa network. We use LoRa right now for water meters and surveillance how consumption of water is shaping in properties of our customers, but we feel that this is huge big data can be used in other processes, for example water losses. This is another huge stream of water that, supported by AI, can be analyzed properly, and the conclusions the conclusions can lead us to even lower levels of water losses.
Can you give us an example of a typical loss that you would solve for using IoT?
One of the examples, it's quite obvious. Maybe not quite obvious if you don't have IoT network, but for us right now. Normally, traditionally, if you have quite advanced monitoring system in your network, if you analyze where is the leakage, you sometimes know that in this part of the city there is a leakage and you should look for it. And you send teams to the field searching for the leakage. They have, of course, proper equipment, but they use time and money to find it. Having IoT networks that engage smart meters, not even going to the field, just sitting next to your computer, you can say, this is not leakage in our infrastructure. This is the leakage on the installation of the customer. And our work right now is not to send team to the field and lose money, just to inform customer, there is a problem on your installation and your bill will be enormous if you won't react.
And I can already envisage a generative AI use case already there, because once you have the smart meter and once it identifies that there is a leak, what if there's a generative AI agent sitting behind, rather than someone else actually thinking about it?
Exactly.
Directly calls the customer and says, here's a leakage, here's what you need to do. Once that's fixed, again go back and then you have a fully automated network.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Exactly.
So we'll POC that next week then. Gregor, I'm listening to you speak and just the vision that you have and what you've already done sounds so massive. Sounds like you have an army of data scientists and engineers at your disposal. I'm generally interested, if you're able to articulate, how do you actually move forward with all of these ideas? Is there an ecosystem of partners? Do you have a team of analysts, like an army sitting behind this?
Of course, it's crucial to have a good partner. So if you don't have a good partner from the outside, it's impossible to do anything. But in our company, we established such structure that IT is a support and very crucial support in any project. We have also such department like research and development, and they are responsible to be a member of every such advanced project and support users like me during the process. So this internal structure with the choose of the proper partner is what I think it's most important.
Wow, that's good. Yeah, we've seen this pattern quite a lot in our discussions with clients, is having a solid partner ecosystem is really, really important, as well as to having your own internal capabilities. So that's really cool that you're able to advance with these use cases. This has been an incredible discussion. We've enjoyed having you here. Thank you for coming all the way out today. We loved listening to you on stage. I saw the room full of people taking photos, being like, wow, I'm never gonna look at a tap or a toilet again the same. When I walk over a tram track, I will think about water piping under the road. Gregor, we really, really appreciate the work that you and your teams are doing. And we hope that we get to see more of this innovation, and glad that we could play a small part in your journey as well. So thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
Indeed,
thank you.
Indeed, and again, AWS Summit here live. I don't know if the cameras can span.
Yeah,
this has been incredible, cool. And you coming and doing this in the AWS Summit means a lot to us. Again, thanks a lot, Gregory, and hoping to see many more innovations and generative AI stories coming together.
Yeah. I hope so. Maybe in the future there will be next opportunity to just talk about the next AI engines. Thank you very much.
A prime example of generating responsibly, right?
Exactly.
Thank you so much, and to all our listeners, remember to generate responsibly. We'll see you soon.
See you soon. Cheers.